got a new light circle, so I'm just having a play, but it's not liking me being that way around. So there we go. So I'll put the light circle there, shall we? There we go, that's better. Hello everyone. I apologise for not doing the calendar readings for a week. I've just been really busy since Saturday. Went and did one of my other hobbies. I've been doing a lot of stuff at work. So I've just been absolutely knackered. And it's Christmas, and I've been getting ready for Christmas, and I've got a big pile of presents over there that need to take them to the parents and everything. Hello Zach, hello Candence. So what I'm going to be doing today, to make up for the week that I've missed, yes I am on my phone, so I don't know what the sound like's going to be. I'm in my front living room in front of my tree. Hi there Bluebells. Hi James, I'm doing great, thank you. So, to make up for the week I've missed, I've got my book again. I'm going to be doing Percy the Small Engine all the way up to Duck and the Diesel Engine, okay? So, here we go. Percy the Small Engine. Dear Christopher and Giles and Peter and Clive, thank you for writing to ask for a book about Percy. He's still cheeky and we're afraid, the Fat Controller and I, that if he had a book to himself it would make him the cheekier than ever. And that would never do. But Percy has been such a really useful engine that we both think he deserves a book. Here it is. Percy and the Signal. Percy is a little green tank engine who works in the yard at the big station. Aw, thanks James. Percy's a little tank engine that works in the yard at the big station. He's a funny little engine and loves playing jokes. These jokes sometimes get him in trouble. Pip, pip, he whistled one morning. Hurry up, Gordon, the train's ready. Gordon thought he was late and came puffing out. Ha ha! Laughed Percy and showed him a train of dirty coal trucks. Gordon didn't go back into the shed. He stayed on a siding thinking how to pay Percy out. Stay in the shed today, Percy squeaked to James. The Fat Controller will come and see you. James was conceited. James was a conceited engine. Ha, he thought. The Fat Controller knows I'm a fine engine ready for anything. He wants me to pull a special train. So James stayed where he was, and nothing his driver and fireman could do could make him move. But the Fat Controller never came, and the other engines grumbled dreadfully. They had to do James's work as well as their own. At last an inspector came. Shut a wheel, James, he said crossly. You can't stay here all day. The Fat Controller told me to stay here, answered James sulkily. He sent a message this morning. No, he didn't, retorted the inspector. How could he? He's away for a week. Oh, said James. Oh! He came quickly out of the shed. Where's Percy? Percy had wisely disappeared. When the Fat Controller came back, he did see James, and Percy too. Both engines wished he hadn't. James and Gordon wanted to pay Percy out, but Percy kept out of their way. One morning, however, he was so excited that he forgot to be careful. I say, you engines, he bubbled. I'm to take some trucks to Thomas's Junction. The Fat Controller chose me specially. He must know I'm a really useful engine. More likely he wants you out of the way, grunted James, but Gordon gave James a wink, like this. Ah, said James. Just so you were saying, Gordon? James and I were just speaking about signals at the junction. We can't be too careful about signals, but then I needn't say that to a really useful engine like you, Percy. Percy felt flattered. Of course not, he said. We had spoken of backing signals, put in James. They need extra special care, you know. Would you like me to explain? No, thank you, James, said Percy airily. I know all about signals, and he bustled off importantly. James and Gordon solemnly exchanged winks. Percy was a little worried as he set out. I wonder what a backing signal is, he thought. Never mind, I'll manage. I know all about signals. He puffed crossly to the trucks and felt better. He saw a signal just outside the station. Bother, he said. It's a danger. Oh, screamed the trucks as they bumped into each other. Presently the signal moved to show line clear. Its arm moved up instead of down. Percy had never seen that sort of signal before. He was surprised. Down means go, he thought, and up means stop, so upper still must mean go back. I know, it's one of those backing signals. How clever of me to find that out. Come on, Percy, said his driver, off we go. But Percy wouldn't go forward, and his driver had to let him back in order. Percy wouldn't go forward, and his driver had to let him back in order to start at all. I'm clever, thought Percy. Even my driver doesn't know about backing signals. And he started so suddenly that the truck screamed again. Whoa, Percy, called his driver. Stop, you're going the wrong way. But it's a backing signal, Percy protested and told him about James and Gordon. The driver laughed and explained about the signal that pointed up. Oh dear, said Percy. Let's start quickly before they come and see us. But he was too late. Gordon swept by with the express and saw everything. The big engines talked about signals that night. They thought the subject was funny. They laughed a lot. But Percy thought they were being very silly. Let's have a look at the chat. I did some mid-soda stories last time. We'll get to those in a bit. I am going to be trying to make some more trains videos for next year. I've had a bit of a problem, so hopefully I can fix it. They've just released a new update. Duck takes charge. Do you know what? Asked Percy. What? Grunted Gordon. Do you know what? Silly, said Gordon crossly. Of course I don't know what if you don't tell me what it is. The Fat Controller says that the work in the yard is too heavy for me. He's getting a bigger engine to help me. Rubbish, butt in James. Any engines can do it. He went on grandly. If you worked more and chatted less, this yard would be sweeter, a better and happier place. Percy went off to fetch some coaches. That stupid old signal, he thought. No one listens to me now. They think I'm silly little engine and order me about. I'll show them, he puffed as he ran about the yard. But he didn't know how. Things went wrong. The coaches and truck behaved badly, and by the end of the afternoon he felt tired and unhappy. He brought some coaches to the station and stood panting at the end of the platform. Hello, Percy, said the Fat Controller. You look tired. Yes, sir, I am, sir. I don't know if I'm standing on my dome or my wheels. You look right way up to me, laughed the Fat Controller. Cheer up. The new engine is bigger than you and can probably do work alone. Would you like to help build my new harbour at Thomas's Junction? Thomas and Toby will help, but I need an engine there all the time. Oh, yes, sir. Thank you, sir, said Percy happily. The new engine arrived next morning. What is your name? Asked the Fat Controller kindly. Montague, sir, but I'm usually called Duck. They say I waddle. I don't really, sir, but I like Duck better than Montague. Good, said the Fat Controller. Duck it shall be. Here, Percy, come and show Duck around. The two engines went off together. At first the trucks played tricks, but soon found that playing tricks on Duck was a mistake. Though James, Gordon and Henry did not. The coaches behaved well, though James, Gordon and Henry did not. They watched Duck quietly doing his work. He seems a simple sort of engine, they whispered. We'll have some fun. Quack, 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 they whisked as they passed him. Percy was cross, but Duck took no notice. They'll get tired of it soon, he said. Presently, the three engines began to order Duck about. Duck stopped. Do they tell you to do things, Percy? He asked. Yes, they do, answered Percy sadly. Right, said Duck. We'll soon put a stop to that nonsense, he whispered. Something. We'll do it tonight. The Fat Controller had had a good day. There had been no grumbling passengers. All the trains had run on time. And Duck had worked well in the yard. The Fat Controller was looking forward to hot buttered toast for tea at home. He had just left the office when he heard an extraordinary noise. Bother, he said, and hurried to the yard. Henry, Gordon and James were wheezing and snorting furiously, while Duck and Percy calmly sat at the point outside the shed, refusing to let the engines in. Stop that noise, he bellowed. Now, Gordon. They won't let us in, hissed the big engine crossly. Duck, explain this behaviour. Beg pardon, sir, but I'm a Great Western engine. We Great Western engines do our work without fuss, but we are not ordered about by other engines. You, sir, are our controller. We will of course move if you order us, but begging your pardon, sir, Percy and I would be glad if you could inform these engines that we only take orders from you. The three big engines hissed angrily. Silence! Snapped the fat controller. Percy and Duck, I am pleased with your work today, but not with your behaviour tonight. You have caused a disturbance. Gordon, Henry and James sniggered. They stopped suddenly when the fat controller turned on them. As for you, he thundered, you've been worse. You've made the disturbance. Duck is quite right. This is my railway and I give the orders. When Percy went away, Duck was left to manage alone, and he did so easily. Percy and Harold. Oh, thanks, guys. Percy worked hard at the harbour. Toby helped, but sometimes the loads of stones were too heavy, and Percy had to fetch them for himself. Then he would push the trucks along the quay to where the workmen needed for the stone for their building. I should probably have some drink. An airfield was close by, and Percy heard the aeroplane zooming overhead all day. The noisiest of them all was a helicopter, which hovered, buzzing like an angry bee. Stupid thing, said Percy. Why can't it go and buzz elsewhere? One day, Percy stopped near the airfield. The helicopter was standing quite close. Hello, said Percy. Who are you? I am Harold. Who are you? I'm Percy. What really great arms you've got. They're nice arms, said Harold, offended. I can hover like a bird. Oh, what really great arms you've got. I get my sentences muddled. They're nice arms, said Harold, offended. I can hover like a bird. Don't you wish you could hover? Certainly not. I like my rails, thank you. I think railways are slow, said Harold in a bored voice. They're not much use and quite out of date. He whirled his arms and buzzed away. Percy found Toby at the top station arranging trucks. I say, Toby, he burst out, that Harold that stuck up whirlybird thing says I'm slow and out of date. Just let him wait. I'll show him. He collected his trucks and started off, still fuming. Soon, above the clatter of the trucks, they heard a familiar buzzing. Percy, whispered his driver, there's Harold. He's not far ahead. Let's race him. Yes, let's, said Percy excitedly, and quickly gathered speed. He shot off down the line. The guard's wife had given him a flask of tea for elevenses. He had just poured out a cup when the van lurched and he spilt it down his uniform. He wiped up the mess with his handkerchief and staggered to the front platform. Percy was pounding along. The truck screamed and swayed, while the van rolled and pitched like a ship at sea. Well, I'll be ding-dong-dangled, said the guard. Then he saw Harold buzzing along and understood. Go it, Percy, he yelled. You're gaining. Percy had never been allowed to run fast before. He was having the time of his life. Hurry, 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 he panted to the trucks. We don't want to, they grumbled, but it was no use. Percy was bucketing along with flying wheels and Harold was high alongside. Oh, thanks, Terry's trains. That's really nice. Anyway, where was I? They grumbled, but it was no use. Percy was bucketing along with flying wheels and Harold was high and alongside. The fireman shovelled for dear life while the driver was so excited he could hardly keep still. Well done, Percy, he shouted. We're gaining. We're going ahead. Oh, good boy, good boy. Far ahead, a distant signal warned them that the wharf was near. Shut off steam whistle. Peep, 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 peep. Brakes, guard, please. Using Percy's brakes too, the driver carefully checked the train's headlong speed. They rolled under the main line and halted smoothly on the wharf. Oh dear, groaned Percy. I'm sure we've lost. The fireman scrambled to the cab roof. We've won! He shouted and nearly fell off in his excitement. Harold's still hovering. He's looking for a place to land. Listen, boys, said the fireman called. Here's a song for Percy. Said Harold Helicopter to our Percy, you are slow. Your railway's out of date and not much you know. But Percy with his stone trucks did the trip in record time, and we beat that helicopter on our old branch line. The driver and guard soon caught the tune, and so did the workman on the quay. Percy loved it. Oh, thank you, he said. He liked the last lines best of all. How are you all enjoying that? Let's just have a check of the chat. How's it going? Are we all good? Are we all good? Yes. No new comments? That's brilliant. Don't want to stop the stream. Okay, right. Percy's Promise. A mob of excited children poured out of Annie Clarabel one morning and raced down to the beach. That's the vicar's Sunday school, explained Thomas. I'm busy this evening, but the station master says I can ask you to take them home. Of course I will, promised Percy. The children had a lovely day. Just checking my battery power. Gonna run out. Of course I will, promised Percy. The children had a lovely day, but at tea time it got very hot. Dark clouds loomed overhead. Then came the lightning, thunder, and rain. The children only just managed to reach shelter before the deluge began. Annie and Clarabel stood at the platform. The children scrambled in. Can we go home, please, station master? Asked the vicar. The station master called Percy. Take the children home quickly, please, he ordered. The rain streamed down Percy's boiler. Ugh! He shivered and thought of his nice dry shed. Then he remembered. A promise is a promise, he told himself. So here goes. His driver was anxious. The river was fast rising. It foamed and swirled fiercely, threatening to flood the country any minute. The rain beat in Percy's face. I wish I could see, he complained. They left a cutting and found themselves in water. Oh, my wheels, shivered Percy. It's cold. Whoosh, he hissed. It's sloshing my fire. They stopped and backed the coaches to the cutting and waited while the guard found a telephone. He returned, looking gloomily. We couldn't go back if we wanted, he said. The bridge near the junction is down. The fireman went to the guard's van carrying a hatchet. Hello, said the guard. You look fierce. I want some dry wood for Percy's fire, please. They broke up some boxes, but they did not satisfy the fireman. I'll have some of your floorboards, he said. What? My nice floors, grumbled the guard. I only swept it this morning. But he found the hatchet and helped. Soon they had plenty of wood stored in Percy's bunker. His fire burnt well now. He felt warm and comfortable again. Bzz, bzz, bzz. Oh dear, thought Percy sadly. Harold's come to laugh at me. Bum! Something thudded on Percy's boiler. Ow! He exclaimed in a muffled voice. That's really too bad. He didn't throw things at me. His driver unwound a parachute from Percy's indignant front. I can't say that word. Harold isn't throwing things at you, he laughed. He's dropped hot drinks for us. They all had a drink of cocoa and felt better. Percy had steamed up by now. Peep, peep, thank you, Harold, he whistled. Come on, let's go. The water lapped his wheels. Ugh, he shivered. It crept up and up and up. It reached his ashpan. Then it sloshed at his fire. Whoosh! Percy was losing steam, but he plunged bravely on. I promised, he panted. I promised. They piled his fire high with wood and managed to keep him steaming. I must do it, he gasped. I must. He made a last great effort and stood exhausted but triumphant on the rails, which were clear of the flood. He rested to get steam back, then brought the train home. 3 cheers for Percy, called the vicar, and the children nearly raised the roof. The fat controller arrived in Harold. First he thanked the men. Harold told me you were a wizard, he said. He says he can beat you at some things, Percy snorted, but not at being a submarine? He chuckled. I don't know what you've been playing at, and I won't ask, but I do know that you're a really useful engine. And that is the end of Percy. Oh, thanks, Terry. That's really nice to know. Well, keep at it. You'll get there one day. That's what I've done. Just keep going. Don't lose faith in yourself. Do it as a hobby. Okay? You are under no obligation to make videos. Just do it as a hobby. Okay? That's how I approach it. 8 famous engines now. Let me see what my battery power's on. Ooh, I might have to stop after this book. I'm running out of battery on my phone. Dear friends, the Fat Controller engines are now quite famous. They have been on the wireless in many other adventures, but he had another plan for his engines, and this book will tell you what it was. Percy takes the plunge. Now, I've read this one for the advent calendar, but I'll read it again, because I like you all. Sometimes Percy takes some trucks to the other end of the line. There he meets engines from the other railway. Well, actually, no, tell a lie. Harold read this one, but I will keep reading. One day, Henry wanted to rest in the sheds, but Percy was talking to some tank engines. It was raining hard. Water swirled under my boiler. I couldn't see where I was going, but I struggled on. Oh, Percy, you are brave. Well, said Percy modestly, it wasn't anything really. Water's nothing to an engine with determination. Tell us more, said the engines. What are you engines doing here? Hissed Henry. This shed is for the Fat Controller's engines. Go away. Silly things, snorted Henry. They're not silly. Percy had been enjoying himself. He was cross because Henry had sent them away. They are silly, and so are you. Water's nothing to an engine with determination. Pah! Anyway, said cheeky Percy, I'm not afraid of water. I like it. He ran away singing, once an engine attached to a train was afraid of a few drops of rain. Percy arrived home feeling pleased with himself. Silly old Henry, he chuckled. Thomas? Trays. Is it Trays Trains? That's a mouthful. Trays Trains. Sorry, mate. I didn't mean to mispronounce your name. It's the small screen and all that. Thomas was looking at a board on the key. It said danger. We mustn't go past it, he said. That's orders. Why? Danger means falling down something, said Thomas. I went past danger once and fell down a mine. Percy looked beyond the board. I can't see a mine, he said. He didn't know that the foundations of the quay had sunk and the rails now sloped downward to the sea. Stupid board, said Percy. For days and days he tried to sidle past it, but his driver stopped him every time. No, you don't, he would say. Then Percy made a plan. One day at the top station he whispered to the trucks, Will you give me a bump when we get to the quay? The trucks were surprised. They had never been asked to bump an engine before. They giggled and chattered about it the whole way down. Whoa, Percy, whoa, said his driver, and Percy checked beamingly at the distance signal. Driver doesn't know my plan, he chuckled. On, laughed the trucks. Percy thought they were helping. I'll pretend to stop at the station, but the trucks will push me past the board. Then I'll make them stop. I can do whatever I like. If Percy hadn't been so conceited, he would have never have been so silly. Every wise engine knows that you cannot trust trucks. They reached the station and Percy's brakes groaned. That was the signal for the trucks. Go on, they yelled, and surged forward together. They gave Percy a fearful bump and knocked his driver and fireman off the footplate. Oh, said Percy, sliding past the board. The day was misty. The rails were slippery. His wheels wouldn't grip. Percy was frantic. That's enough, he hissed. But it was too late. Once on the slope, he tobogganed helplessly down, crashing through the buffers and slithered into the sea. You're a very disobedient engine. Percy knew that voice. He groaned. The foreman borrowed a small boat and rowed the Fat Controller round. Please, sir, get me out, sir. I'm truly sorry, sir. No, Percy. We cannot do that till high tide. I hope it will teach you to obey orders. Yes, sir. Percy shivered miserably. He was cold. Fish were playing hide and seek through his wheels. The tide rose higher and higher. He was feeling his position more and more deeply every minute. It was nearly dark when they brought floating cranes, cleared away the trucks and lifted Percy out. He was too cold and stiff to move by himself, so he was sent to the works the next day on Henry's goods trains. Well, 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 chuckled Henry. Did you like the water? No. I am surprised. You need more determination, Percy. Water's nothing to an engine with determination. You know, perhaps you will like it better next time. But Percy was quite determined that there won't be a next time. Gordon goes foreign. This one was actually on my list of to-dos, so I'm doing it now. Lots of people travel to the big station at the end of the line. Engines from the other railways sometimes pull their trains. These engines stay the night and go home the next day. Gordon was taking one of these. Gordon was talking to one. I'm really bad at that. Gordon was talking one day to one of these. When I was young and green, he said, I remember going to London. Do you know the place? The station's called King's Cross. King's Cross? Snorted the engine. London's Euston. Everybody knows that. Rubbish, said Duck. London's Paddington. I know, I work there. They argued till they went to sleep. They argued when they woke up. They would still argue when the other engine went away. Stupid thing, said Gordon crossly. I've no patience. Stupid yourself, said Duck. Gordon Paddington. London's Paddington. Paddington, do you hear? Stop arguing, James broke in. You've made me tired. You both agree about something anyway. What's that? London's not Euston, laughed James. Now shut up. Gordon rolled away, still grumbling. I'm sure it's King's Cross. I'll go and prove it. But that was easier said than done. London lay beyond the big station at the other end of the line. Gordon had to stop there. Another engine then took his train. If I didn't stop, he thought, I'd go to London. One day he ran right through the station. Another he tried to start before the fireman could uncouple the coaches. He tried all sorts of tricks, but it was no good. His driver checked him every time. Oh dear, he thought sadly, I'll never get there. One day he pulled the express to the station as usual. His fireman uncoupled the coaches and he ran onto the siding to wait till it was time to go home. The coaches waited and waited at the platform, but their engine didn't come. A porter ran across and spoke to Gordon's driver. The inspector's on the platform. He wants to see you. The driver climbed down from the cab and walked over to the station. He came back a few minutes looking excited. Hello, said the fireman. What's happened? The engine for the express turned over when he was coming out the yard. Nothing else can come in and out. They want us to take the train to London. I said we would if the Fat Controller agreed. They telephoned and he said he would do it. How's that? Fine, said the fireman. We'll show them what the Fat Controller's engines can do. Come on. Come on, said Gordon. Let's go. He walked quickly over the crossings and backed onto the train. It was only a few minutes before the guard blew his whistle, but Gordon thought it was ages. Come on, he puffed to the coaches. Come on. We're going to town, sang the coaches slowly at first, then faster and faster. Gordon found that London was a long way away. Never mind, he said. I like a good long run to stretch my wheels. But all the same, he was glad when London came in sight. The Fat Controller came into his office the next morning. He looked at the letters on his desk. One had a London postmark. I wonder how Gordon's getting on, he said. The station master knocked and came in. He looked excited. Excuse me, sir. Have you seen the news? Not yet. Why? Just look at this. The Fat Controller took the newspaper. Good gracious me, he said. There's Gordon. Headlines too. Famous engine at London station. Police called to control crowds. The Fat Controller read on, absorbed. Gordon returned the next day. The Fat Controller spoke to his driver and fireman. I see you had a good welcome in London. We certainly did, sir. We signed autographs till our arms ached. And Gordon had his photograph taken from so many different directions, and once he didn't know where to look. Good, smiled the Fat Controller. I expect he enjoyed himself, didn't you, Gordon? No, sir, I didn't. Why ever not? London's all wrong, answered Gordon sadly. They've changed it. It isn't King's Cross anymore. It's St Pancras. Double header. Oh, nice. So you're doing it in a. So Terry has just left a comment. Trays, sorry, has just left a comment saying about making cardboard Wellsworth and Elsbridge. Believe it. I will have to try and look into that one day. Anyway, double header. The Fat Controller gave Gordon a rest when they came from London. He told James to do his work. How much are we on battery? I'm afraid, chaps, I'm actually going to have to leave it there. I will probably do another stream, another video upload. You know what? From tomorrow, when I get home from work, I will do another video, another upload, and I'll do one every night from double header until Christmas. Okay? How's that one for a plan? If you like that, please leave a like, please leave a comment, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I will be opening, I have already opened a new channel as well. Thank you, Daniel. Which I will be doing some work on. If you want to see some cosplay props being made for Star Trek, Star Wars, and some other things, I don't know what yet, I will be doing Mr. Ben cosplay and props on YouTube and on Facebook. So please go and subscribe to that channel as well. I will be posting a link to that channel in the community tab shortly, once I've charged my battery, because I'm about to die. So thank you all, and good night.